Welcome ladies and gentlemen to another Call of Duty Warzone video. In this video we're going to compare the Kilo 141 with the new AN-94 that's just released with Season 5. In this video we're going to break down the stats of both of the guns and the general feel to figure out which one is actually the best and which one you should use inside your loadout. Before we get into the details, it's amazing to see that we're on track to hit our goal of 3,000 subscribers very soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel to help us out and so you don't miss out on any Season 5 content. When you first use both the Kilo and the AN-94, you don't think they're very similar weapons, but when you put the correct attachments on it, you do realise they're actually quite similar in many ways, and that's why I want to compare both of these guns inside this video. Taking a look at the stats for both of these guns, we have the AN-94 on the left and the Kilo on the right, and you can see at the very top that the headshot damage is very similar, they're almost very close, and then we've got the body shot damage next, where the AN-94 does do slightly more damage. We can see that the Kilo makes up for this with its higher rate of fire of 780 rounds per minute, which is almost 200 rounds per minute more than the AN-94. This makes the time to kill quite close actually, with a difference of only 70 milliseconds in favour of the Kilo, but as you can see, as it gets to longer distances, it starts to favour the AN-94 a bit more. We can see that the AN-94 does have a slightly faster aim down sight time, and that's quite surprising considering it does do more damage, and the difference in the reload time is not enough to notice. As it goes into longer distances, so over 40 meters for example, the AN-94 actually takes over the Kilo in terms of time to kill. And what's also quite surprising is that you'd expect the higher damage weapon to have less mobility, but in this case the AN-94 actually has the faster aim down sight time as well. The Kilo is currently my favourite assault rifle inside Warzone, and it's also a lot of other people's favourite as well, so we need to find out if the AN-94 can actually take that spot for some people. So to get a bigger picture of how both of these weapons are going to perform inside Warzone, we're going to need to take a look at the recoil patterns, but before we do that we need to look at the best class setups that would get you the maximum possible range with the least amount of recoil as possible. For the AN-94 we have the factory barrel, the commando foregrip, the monolithic suppressor, the 60 round mags and the hollow sight. And we're going to compare this AN-94 to my favourite Kilo 141 Warzone class setup. Both of these attachment combinations are designed to get you the maximum range you can inside Warzone whilst keeping the recoil reduced as low as possible as well. So now we know what attachments we need, let's take a look at the recoil patterns for both of these guns. So we have all the recoil patterns on the screen here, so at the very left we have the recoil with no attachments, in the middle we have the recoil with the attachments I've shown earlier on, and then at the very right we show the recoil that's been controlled but also including the attachments as well. Keep in mind, I'm not the best at controlling recoil, there is players that can do this much better than me, but this is for the average player to give you an idea of what you can actually do with both of these guns. At the very left you can see in pink that the Kilo has a better recoil pattern than the AN-94 with no attachments. A lot of people don't like the Kilo's recoil pattern because it goes upwards and to the left, but it's actually really easy to manage once you get used to it. The base AN-94 definitely has the worst recoil pattern because it has a lot of horizontal bounce, and that's why we use the attachments from earlier on to make this much better. We can see with the Kilo not a huge amount changes, but it does straighten up the recoil pattern just a little bit to make it that much easier to control, and with the AN-94, even though the recoil is much longer, it's definitely going to be much easier to control than the base weapon. And if you look at the very far right, you can see both of these weapons being controlled with recoil, and you can actually see you can do an absolutely great job with both of these guns, especially with the correct attachments. It makes it so easy to use and so easy to control. In terms of recoil, I still have to give the edge to the Kilo because even if you don't know how to control recoil whatsoever, the Kilo's definitely the gun that you should be using. Another quick tip with the AN-94 is that if you select the single fire mode, it actually fires in 2-round bursts, and this is a much faster fire rate than the full auto fire mode. Now to wrap this all up, taking all of this into consideration, in terms of multiplayer, I do think the AN-94 is the better weapon here because it does do more damage over distance and more damage in general. In terms of Warzone, it is actually much more difficult to choose because the recoil patterns are very much manageable, and on top of that, the AN-94 does slightly better damage at the longer ranges, whereas the Kilo does slightly better damage at the closer ranges. and it kind of depends on where you find yourself fighting most of the time. So if it's mainly mid-range fights, then the Kilo's probably the best option. If it's really long-range fights, the Kilo is still a great option, you might want to choose the AN-94 instead for that slightly faster time to kill. Personally, I'm sticking to the Kilo still. It's one of my favourite guns and I really enjoy using it, but let me know what you think about both of these guns down in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel to help us out with our 3,000 subscriber goal, and thank you very much for watching.